Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be sharing with you a very real and personal story about how I got my first job in the Netherlands in a Dutch speaking organization few months after relocating to the Netherlands. This one is for anyone who just moved to the Netherlands or is planning to move to the Netherlands and you are worried about how to get a job or integrating into the Dutch society. I hope my experience gives you clarity, encouragement, and a picture of the reality of what it really takes. Of course, this is solely my experience, but I hope that it helps you and encourages you. Before moving to the Netherlands, I lived and I worked in Nigeria. I had a good job in corporate Nigeria. I was growing and thriving in my career. And then love happened. As a matter of fact, I have worked almost all my adult life. Like I was working even before getting into the university, and I was working after my university days. So all I always knew was working, growing my career, right? And then it was time to move to the Netherlands because love happened. I already knew that relocating to the Netherlands was more like starting over again, especially in the aspects of my career. I did not come to the Netherlands on a work visa, so it was expected that when I come to the Netherlands, I have to start, building my career again, right? I also know it was not going to be a very easy experience because, first of all, English is not the first language in the Netherlands. The first language in the Netherlands is Dutch. I already knew there was going to be language barriers and all the dynamics that come with language barriers or language limitation. Knowing all this and preparing for this is different from experiencing it firsthand. So, of course, I moved to the Netherlands, and after fulfilling the whole, you know, documentation and all that, it was time to settle in. Remember, like I said, I was always working, so I am basically a career oriented person, right? I also knew that there will be delays before getting into the Dutch market. But then again, experiencing it firsthand is very difficult, right? I came into the Netherlands on a joining spouse visa or joining spouse immigration procedure, right? Now, first of all, if you know anybody that is married to a Dutch citizen and had to go through all the immigration obligations before coming to join their spouse in the Netherlands, please give them a hug. See, joining your spouse in the Netherlands is not an easy experience compared to how other people join their spouses in other European countries. This is a story for another day. Anyways, so I joined my husband in the Netherlands, right? Now, after joining your spouse in the Netherlands, there are more immigration obligations that you have to fulfill while in the Netherlands, and there is a specific time frame. Now, one of the immigration obligation is this. You have to write an exam in a higher Dutch level. Part of this exam is the orientation on the Dutch labor market. This is called ONA. So ONA is like a program where you have to undergo a sort of examination, but it is more practical. What this means is that you'd have to pose as though you are applying for a job in any organization or any industry of your interest or your capacity. And then this is basically like a practical examination where you get to literally apply for a job. So you are expected to go through the application process that you would go through when applying for a real job. This will mean, depending on the kind of job, you will literally have a CV in Dutch, have a cover letter, attend an interview where you will get people that will literally interview you in Dutch. And then they get to gauge your response, your articulation, basically what you will experience when looking for a job in any organization. You go through that process. And depending on your performance, you'll either get to know if you passed this ONA or have to do it again. However, there is an exemption option. This exemption option means that you would have to get a real job in the Netherlands. And this real job will provide you a proof of employment, will provide you pay slip, anything to prove that you are legally employed and you are actually serving in that organization or company. You have to get a real job. If you can prove that you are working, paying tax, contributing actively in the Dutch market, you will get an exemption. I think you have to work for at least 6 months at the time I was going through this process. It might have changed by now. So there was an exemption option, right? And because I am a career person, my focus was to go through the exemption route. That means I would have to get a job in the Netherlands. Also, because I had the anxiety of facing a direct panel to have me interviewed, for the process, I'd rather just get a job. And so I started looking for a job after settling in the Netherlands. Guys, I applied. I searched. I applied. I asked. Of course, I was getting no, no, sorry, 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 sorry. Oh my goodness. Even though for some of the jobs I applied to, I already had an idea that I was going to get a no. But for some reason, I just said, just try. However, when you get the no in reality, when you get that "we are sorry to inform you" email, it hits differently. It is more painful than you can imagine. So I got a lot of no's. I also got a few yeses and even an interview call, which was a big progress for me. But of course, during the interview, it was clear that my Dutch level was not exactly what they wanted. And so it turned out to be a no, right? I cried. I got discouraged. There are points where I told my husband I was not going to apply for jobs again. And after saying all that, the next day I would literally be on LinkedIn looking for more jobs. So, yes, I kept trying and trying and trying. While trying, remember I had a Dutch examination to write. So, in the background, I was studying, for my Dutch exam. I was also doing all my best to really get a hold of the Dutch language, right? So, I was doing that by the side while I kept applying for jobs. And thankfully, I have a very supportive family. My in laws are so supportive. In fact, my mother in law made a rule and she said that when I am with them, they were not going to speak English to me or with me. I was always going to speak Dutch, right? In fact, she even suggested that I speak Dutch with my husband. But honestly, that one was very difficult because imagine that you have very interesting, delicious information to pass to your husband or things to talk about. It's sweeter in English, right? So honestly, speaking Dutch with my husband was very difficult. But I had my mother-in-law that was literally following me and making sure that I got this right. My mother-in-law was so helpful. My mother-in-law was so invested in my Dutch learning journey that she literally set a book club, guys. A literal book club. She got me a book and she had her own copy. As a matter of fact, this is the book. She got me this book. This book is a Dutch book, or it is a book written in Dutch. So she got this book and she got a copy for herself. And what she did was this. She would set appointments where we literally have a book reading section. She would read like a chapter in Dutch and then she will have me follow through while she's reading, of course. And then she will ask me to read the next chapter in Dutch. Of course, in the beginning, I was saying rubbish. I was reading rubbish. But that was the point. The point was to get acquainted to the words in Dutch, to build my confidence, and of course, to learn the pronunciation, right? So this really helped me in addition to a lot of support. Now, if you have the option, right, or you have the zeal to immediately get yourself enrolled in a Dutch school or a Dutch language learning school when you move into the Netherlands, by all means do that. For me, like I said, I have always been a career person and I just felt that I could win this thing, right? And because I had the option of wanting to go the route of first getting a job, that was what I decided to do. So if you have to go to a language school, please do that. So while, applying for jobs and then trying to also understand the Dutch language and getting myself integrated, I got to know about the Taal Cafe. Taal Cafe is basically the language cafe. Now, language cafes or Taal cafes are located in almost every cities or villages, wherever you are located. And you usually find Taal cafes in the library. Even if they do not meet in the library might have a useful information about Taal cafes or language cafes. So I got to find out about the Taal cafes in my area and I decided to join. The major reason I decided to join the Taal Cafe was, of course, to get in the presence of Dutch speaking people, to interact with them, and just, just be in the presence of Dutch speaking environments, and also an opportunity for me to go out of the house. I did that. And one of the, importance of a Taal Cafe, especially for those that are just moving into the country, is that you don't just get to learn about the language or how to speak the language. You have volunteers that literally would help you read your emails, read your letters, especially, cases where you get letters from the government and you're not able to read it because it is in Dutch. You have people that are really kind enough to help you process these letters, read your emails. In fact, some people even volunteer to do your tax returns. This is some of the benefits you get in a Taal Cafe next to learning the language. In my case, I went there for the language. And then I met this very nice woman. We got talking and I told her about my background, my career background and my plans because she wanted to know what my plans was and all that. And I told her and I explained to her why I wanted a job first because I wanted to go through the exemption route for the owner and all that. And then I also told her that I also want to, penetrate the Dutch market to, know how it is. And it will also help my career profile, right? And then she asked if I had applied to a specific company. And I said to her that I have seen this organization. I had also seen a couple of job openings in this organization. But when I visit their website, it is in Dutch. So I was always intimidated when I visited the website because it is in Dutch and I just felt it is not something for me. I mean, if they do not have like an English section, that means they expect that everybody that is working there speaks Dutch or has to be seriously Dutch speaking. And then she said to me that she knew a couple of persons that were not Dutch speaking people that were working in the organization. I was like, oh, and she said yes. And she said to me, just, apply, just talk to them. I could also get my CV prepared and put in for, say, an open application. So open application is basically that when you see an organization you have interest in, you just send in your CV and your cover letter. And when there's an opening, they get to start with applications in the open application portal before putting out other openings publicly. So this is something you could try. Just send in open applications. You never know, right? So she encouraged me. Anyways, she encouraged me. She gave me that boost. She told me, just talk to them. You never know. But it is possible that they could employ a non-Dutch speaking person. So after all the ginger and encouragement, I decided to apply. What I did was that I went back to their website. I found some job openings that kind of align with my career field, right? And then I used that job opening as a conversation starter. What I did was that I sent an email to the hiring manager explaining my situation. So I basically said, okay, hi, I saw this job opening and the skills required is something that I am very capable of delivering. However, given my background in English, I know that I am not able to deliver in the capacity you would expect because of the language gap. However, I would appreciate if you could suggest other departments that I can fit in and that can help me grow my skills. I basically just, explained, my situation and I also attached my CV. Now, my CV was already in Dutch. And how I got my CV in Dutch is like another interesting story. But in summary, was that somebody approached me on LinkedIn. I got to meet with her and she translated my CV to Dutch. So I already had a Dutch CV. However, you do not need anybody to translate your CV to Dutch now because this is something you can literally do on ChatGPT or anywhere. Most importantly is get your CV in Dutch. So I had my Dutch CV. So when I sent that email to them, I also attached my CV, right? And thankfully, the hiring manager was so understanding and kind. She responded to my email and she said something along the line of, oh, of course, it is true that you will not be able to serve in this capacity for this specific job position because this position will require back-to-back conversation through emails and telephone conversation with clients overseas and mostly in the Netherlands. So I will not be able to serve in this capacity. However, she advised that I apply to another department. That department was more like a department where most of the job duty involved reading. You read like an inventory, or you read the fulfillment and then you deliver those fulfillments. And reading, I could read to an extent. I could identify numbers, I could identify alphabets. So it's something I knew I could fit in. And it was easy because I didn't have to interact directly with clients. I only needed to interact with my colleagues and my line manager. So this was something I knew I could do. Of course, it was way lower than my career level, but like I said, I needed this job because I needed to fulfill one of the immigration obligations, right? I needed to get into a job and prove to the immigration department that I am capable of getting a job in the Netherlands. So I needed the job. And thankfully, I was also going to get paid for that. So why not, right? It is important to note that I deliberately did not want to go for other kind of jobs like cleaning job or working in a hotel. And this is because I am not ignorant of the fact that I had the capacity to choose. What I mean is that, so I was not coming from a place of I needed money now, right? Thankfully, but I was coming from a place of I needed a specific kind of job. I wanted a job in like a company or an organization because I was also visualizing how good it will look on my career profile, right? And thankfully, I got something in line with that. And most importantly, I got the owner exemption. This was like the most important thing. And so, yes, that was how I got the job. I also passed my examination, and this examination included speaking, writing, listening, and the Netherlands general knowledge that had to do with history and all that. So yes, I got to pass that exam too, thankfully, and I got my exemption, right? So yes, the whole aim was achieved, and I worked in that organization for close to 2 years. And yes, I really got integrated into the system. It was good to see, what it felt like working in a Dutch market. Of course, it could be different from other organizations, but it just felt good to know. And I would also like to add that for some persons, it could be different. Depends on your location, right? We were not staying at the Randstad. So Randstad is basically like the commercial cities in the Netherlands. I mean, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Den Haag. Most of these cities, right, have international organization. As a matter of fact, where I was working in Nigeria, right, had a branch in Rotterdam. But because of the dynamics of my household, right, we could not just easily move to Rotterdam or Amsterdam. I had to face my reality. I had to accept my reality and work with what I was presented with. So it could be different for other persons. It could be different from you. If you are living in one of those commercial cities, it just might be different. You might just easily get a job in a mostly English speaking organization. But then again, English is not the first language in the Netherlands. It is important to work towards that reality and try as much as you can to express yourself in Dutch. It is okay to sound stupid, right? When you try to say something in Dutch. I still sound that way and feel that way sometimes, but honestly, I do not care. Also, there are a lot of people in the Netherlands that speak English. There are a lot of people that will be happy to help you get better in Dutch. All they want to see is that, move or that eagerness to see that you are trying to get integrated or speak the language, and they will be happy to help you. I am blessed to be surrounded with people that are so kind and encouraging, that see through my effort and try to encourage me, that pushes me and make me to, speak that Dutch. My mindset is that I approach all these experiences from a place of humility and a place of adventure. So when I'm being corrected, I do not pick offense, right? I literally will say thank you and try to get better. And that is the truth. So have the mindset, have your mind open, understand your mission and your vision and how you see yourself in years to come. It might be that you want to, grow in your career or have your own business, right? Whatever it is, you still need that level of integration so that you can be able to relate to the people around you, because this is very important. You cannot run your business all by yourself, and you need to be able to relate with your colleagues, even if it's in an international environment. As long as you are located in the Netherlands, you need a level of integration as much as you can, right? So, yes, that is it. That is my story. It's been a beautiful experience. I am thankful. I had my ups, my down, my crying moments, my frustrating moments. I had times where I said, I am done. And then the next day, I still continue. It's been an interesting journey. What I'll say is that don't be intimidated by, the size of the company. And when you see that job description that says you have to be fluent in Dutch, still apply, because you never know who will be interviewing you. It is better to process receiving a no response, so that when you receive that response, it's going to be heartbreaking, but it will not break you. So, yes, this is my story. And this is the point where I wish anyone watching this video who are looking to move to the Netherlands or any other country, especially countries that are not English speaking countries, I wish you all the best. I hope that my story inspires you or encourages you to keep pushing, keep trying, because you never know. I wish you all the best, and I wish you all the success you need as you get yourself settled in. Most importantly, always ask questions. Do not assume. Speak out. You know that saying that a closed mouth is a closed destiny. Speak out, right? Ask questions. Do not assume. When you are not sure, please ask again. It is okay to keep asking until you are very sure. Look for the language cafe in your area. Look for the Taal Cafe. Join them. Join any community that you know that will help you get integrated into the system. Be bold, be confident. When you make mistake, make it unafraid. So I would like to know, for those of you that have moved to the Netherlands or have integrated or still integrating, please share your experience. It might encourage the next person that is looking to get integrated or has just relocated and thinking of where to start from. So please share your experience to encourage each other. And if you are an expat that has just recently moved to the Netherlands, or if you are looking to move to the Netherlands, I hope that my story encourages you and makes you to feel less alone and more empowered. Feel free to share your questions in the comment section. I will be happy to help where I can. And most importantly, please share this video, because somebody out there might just need this level of encouragement. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Yours truly, Princess.